Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from A Man Talks FPL SC. In today's video, we're going through my updated Game Week 8 wildcard draft and my team selection thoughts for Game Week 8. So hopefully you guys get some insight from the video. If you do enjoy it, really appreciate a thumbs up. Definitely do subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the content, but let's get straight into the video. So I just wanted to quickly recap what my previous wildcard draft was that I showed last week. So we had gone with a pretty expensive defense with 4 at the back and midfield, which included a Grealish in terms of a Manchester City attacker and a pretty strong bench with Tony, Livramento and Brownhill, who obviously Tony could very easily interchange with the likes of Smith Rowe. I did identify a few players from this draft who were locks in the team, and as it stands they are still in the team and they have not gone anywhere. The question marks though, there have been some changes, so let's see what the updated draft looks like. So starting off with the defense, we've still kept Ramsdale in goals. I'm still very torn whether I should go with Ramsdale or Raya as my wildcard goalkeeper. I do have 0.1 in the bank that I could make that switch from Ramsdale to Raya. That's something I still just need to decide, but I think Raya is a bit more of that differential and it could be a little bit more exciting as a prospect, so I still haven't completely ruled him out, but definitely make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'll put a link in the description below because I will post my final wildcard team, and obviously a lot of the players I'm going to show will be subject to change, of course, because I'm human and I love to tinker with my wildcard team, so nothing I'm going to show here is completely locked in. But enough of that rant. So Ramsdale could easily change to Raya. The 3 defenders though I think are pretty set on with Trent, Rudiger and Cancelo. Rudiger has got a yellow flag at the moment, but I'm hoping from the press conference news on Friday that he should be past fit. It didn't seem like too major of an issue, so I'm hopeful that he's going to be past fit for the weekend. But I have decided to go one less premium defender and go with 3 at the back instead of the 4 in the previous draft. What I found from last season when I did pretty well was I didn't usually use that many transfers on my defenders. I usually just kept the defenders pretty stable, and I think if I had gone with that 4 defender approach, I potentially would have had to take money out of one of them to maybe upgrade an attacker down the line, and I thought I just would remove that headache and that potential future transfer and just go with the Trent, Rudiger and Cancelo, which is still a pretty expensive backline. You know, Trent 7.5, Rudiger's gone up to like 5.8, Cancelo 6.2. We've gone with pretty cheap bench defenders in Livramento and Manquillo. Manquillo is not ideal. This is mainly for budget purposes. Ideally, I would probably have like a Shane Duffy or a Ben White. I'm pretty set on this back 3, and they're definitely, I think, the way I'm going to be going on a wildcard. Obviously, depending on what the news is like on a Rudiger, but I'm hopeful that he's going to be past fit, but this is going to be the likely backline for me. So in the midfield, Salah and Rafinha are still in the team, absolute locks, although it is looking more and more likely that Rafinha is not going to play on the weekend. If that is the case, which I do expect it to be, Livramento will be first on my bench and he will come in for Rafinha, and he's got a pretty decent home game against Leeds, and obviously Leeds without Bamford, if he's not playing, and Rafinha, there could be potential for a clean sheet for Livramento. So I'm happy enough to still bench Rafinha if I need to, because he's such a good long-term asset and he's still got good fixtures in Wolves, Norwich and Leicester coming up. Son and Mbeumo are the new additions to the team. Mbeumo I've kind of referenced in a previous wildcard guide video in the international break. I do think that he is the best budget midfielder option to go for. Brentford's long-term fixtures after this matchup against Chelsea are very good. They're looking like a good attacking team, and Mbeumo is playing further forward than even Ivan Toney, and so I think he's got good underlying statistics as well, so I think he's a solid option in that kind of budget midfielder category. Heung-min Son is really the big differentiator I think on the wildcard, especially he's very expensive, and so I think players who aren't on a wildcard will find it a little bit difficult to get to him. He's got a great matchup this week against Newcastle away. Obviously, the fixtures for the next 3 after that are not that good for Tottenham on face value. You know, you've got West Ham, Manchester United and Everton. The way I see it though is that West Ham, they haven't been the best at the back. You know, I know because I was owning Vladimir Soufal, so I was paying a lot of attention to West Ham's defensive stats, and yes, they looked good on paper, but they always had a tendency to let either 1 or 2 goals in, and West Ham are a team that do like to counter-attack, so I feel like it could be an open game, so I feel like Son could do well against West Ham. Manchester United, it is at home. The way it is at the moment is that Manchester United are without Varane and Harry Maguire. The big fault of Manchester United's defense is that they're very open to counter-attacks, and that fits someone like Son to a T. Everton away could be a tougher fixture, but the benefit of Son is that from game week 12, his fixtures are amazing in the long term, so I kind of want to have obviously a very good matchup in Newcastle, but B, he's a fantastic long-term asset and I don't have to worry about him barring any injury. And I will openly admit I really love the player Son. He just constantly ticks over in FPL. I really like him as a real life player as well, so I've got a bit of a love affair with him, so I'm definitely biased towards Son, but he would be a big inclusion on the wildcard if we do run with this final draft. And finally, with the forwards, we still kept Antonio and Lukaku. Antonio was a bit of a question mark for me, and we have actually gone with Adam Armstrong instead of Ivan Toney. Now, ideally, I probably would have Tony instead of Armstrong, but the way that the team's set up in terms of budget, I don't have the money to go to Tony instead of Armstrong. But the way I see it, Armstrong, yes, he is also a nice differential. He's very cheap at 6 million. The fixtures for Southampton are really, really good. Leeds, Burnley, Watford away, then Aston Villa, then they've got Norwich, I believe, in the week after that. So overall, it's a really strong run of games for Southampton. I think without James Ward-Prowse, yes, that could affect the creativity of Southampton, but Armstrong could be on penalties, and it is a bit of a punt. I'm not 100% certain on that position as well, but I think with those good fixtures, he's one of those people that, he's very cheap. You just plug into the team. If he doesn't do well for the first 2 or 3 weeks, you can maybe reconfigure the team to be able to get in the likes of Ivan Toney, because they go into a very good run from game week 10. Or if he's doing well, you can very easily just leave him in the team. Lukaku, I don't think I need to speak about him too much. He's pretty much locked into most people's wildcards. He also has a flag, but I'm also hopeful that he's going to be pass fit for this weekend, because it just seemed like it was related to muscle fatigue. Antonio is a big question mark, because the fixtures for West Ham do definitely get tough, especially from around game week 11. So the next 3 aren't horrible. You've got Everton, Tottenham at home, and then you've got Aston Villa away. Then after that, they get into a bit of a tricky run where they've got, I think, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Chelsea within a span of about 5 game weeks. So there definitely are some tough fixtures coming up for Antonio. I'm still keeping him in the draft for now, because I question myself, like, if I wasn't on a wild card, would I be getting rid of him? I probably wouldn't. And obviously, on a wild card gives you that opportunity, to be able to make that change that you normally wouldn't. But part of me is thinking, am I just overthinking it in terms of selling him? And, you obviously could go for someone else like a Tony, obviously to make some extra budget. I could go for a Jimenez, but I do like that kind of mid-price forward bracket. You've got still like Patrick Bamford, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Callum Wilson when he comes back. I think those are all very, very good options. So I kind of want to keep that mid-price forward structure. The benefit is that, if in the next 3, Antonio, it looks like European fixtures are going to really affect West Ham for the negative, and then he's got a really, really tough run coming up, then I would very easily just make a switch at that point in time. But for now, I'm happy enough to keep him. And so updating my locks and question marks, I would say we've added some additional locked players in terms of Mbeumo and also Josh Brownhill. But apart from that, still a lot of question marks in the likes of Ramsdale, whether I go with Son, whether I go with Antonio and Armstrong as well. So what I will also show now is an alternate draft where we kind of just change up mainly Son, Armstrong, and see what that draft looks like instead. So in this updated draft, we've got Phil Foden, Ivan Toney, and Shane Duffy in replacement of Manquillo, Adam Armstrong, and Heung-min Son. And we've got 1.4 mil in the bank, still a lot of money to play with. I could use that to upgrade Shane Duffy to a more premium defender, but I'm more than happy to still run with the 3 premium defender as opposed to the 4. Now, one good thing I do like about this draft is that I have Ivan Toney instead of Armstrong, who I do prefer in the long term. Phil Foden, you can benefit from, 3 really, really good fixtures. Game weeks 8 to 10, you've got Burnley at home, Brighton, Crystal Palace. The big question mark, obviously, is he going to play in those 3 games? We just don't know, and that's something that still kind of haunts me. I really don't like seeing my players get benched, so my risk appetite is quite low, which is kind of what's leaning me towards the Heung-min Son draft. Obviously, there still is scope in the future to get in Heung-min Son by, downgrading potentially like Mikel Antonio and then upgrading Phil Foden. So I do like his flexibility in terms of that price point, and obviously the next 3 fixtures are really strong. And a bit of a dilemma I'm having as well is that, well, yes, I am playing a wild card, and part of that was to attack, the teams like Chelsea, Man City. In the Heung-min Son draft, I only had 3 of their players. In this draft, I've got 4. So I'm wondering, am I using the wild card to its full potential with only having the 3? Yes, potentially that could be the case, but the way I see it as well is that the wild card is a long-term play as well. Spurs do have good long-term fixtures, and I really like Son as well, so I think his selection is still justified. And obviously there's no headache around Heung-min Son. He plays 90 minutes every game week. You don't have to worry about him being on the team sheet, whereas Phil Foden, obviously if he does play, he could be very, very explosive. We just don't know when those are going to come. And obviously Man City do have Champions League fixtures coming up as well, and so I do think there will be extra rotation in their squad. So I think comparing these two, I know a lot of people probably would prefer this draft. I personally, though, I think I am leaning towards the Heung-min Son draft. I know the bench is a little bit weaker with Manquillo. Obviously we have no money in the bank as well, but I just really like that Son selection, so he kind of makes or breaks it for me, and I'm still able to keep a really, really solid defense, still keeping the likes of Antonio as well. And so I think this is likely the draft I'm going to go with. What I will do now is actually I'll jump onto live FPL. I'll show you my kind of transfer plan for the next 4 to 6 game weeks, so I think that's a good window to kind of see how effective your wildcard is going to be moving forward. Alright, so we've just gone on to the live FPL transfer planner. I definitely recommend this if you are on your wildcard or just, managing your team in general. It really does help having a transfer planner just to kind of be a bit more clear in terms of your thoughts around what future moves you should make. So what I've got there is my likely Game Week 8 wildcard team with the Heung-min Son draft. And obviously I've got Livramento in there for Rafinha, expecting that Rafinha is not going to be available for this game week. I would have Salah as captain and Lukaku as vice captain. Don't worry about the bench order as well. Rafinha probably would be my first bench, but we've got Brownhill and Manquillo as well there, who can come in if there's any other rotation with our attackers. So I've just flicked over to game week 9. As you can see there, again, I think the most of the team looks okay. I mean, Trent obviously has Manchester United, Son has West Ham, Salah has Manchester United, so the team might not be ideally placed. Antonio also has Spurs, but overall I don't think the team is in too bad shape, and I would play Rafinha instead of Livramento, so I'll just put in Rafinha into the starting lineup. And so we would be playing with a 3-4-3 where most of the team I think looks pretty good. Lukaku probably would be the captain versus Norwich. Armstrong, ignore him as a vice captain. The vice captain would probably be Mo Salah. So we wouldn't look to make hopefully any transfers this game week so that we can roll one and get 2 in game week 10. So I've now flicked over to game week 10. As you can see, I think the majority of the team still looks okay. Our 3 defenders have got pretty decent matchups. Even Ramsdale against Leicester away could be a little bit tougher, but you've got Lukaku away to Newcastle. So again, I think Lukaku probably could be the captain there. Antonio's got Villa away, which isn't horrible. Armstrong's got Watford, so again, a good fixture. At this point in time, obviously, I might not be so thrilled with having Armstrong, so Armstrong could change to someone else, maybe even like a Hwang. Obviously I didn't discuss Hwang, but I think Hwang I'm not going to go for because I kind of want to see how he goes in the next couple of weeks before jumping on him. So that's why I've gone with Armstrong instead of Hwang. And Livramento on the bench there could be good cover as he's got Watford away. Now this is when it gets a little bit tricky for my team. So this is when I've got 2 free transfers, and if everything goes to plan, realistically the team doesn't actually need a transfer when you look at it. This is when I could potentially, if I've gained some extra value, I could maybe do a luxury swap of say Armstrong to Tony, potentially change something on my bench. One thing I have thought about doing as well is that I normally don't make goalkeeper transfers, and Ramsdale I think is probably going to be okay long term. I have thought about potentially just swapping to Brentford because Brentford do have Burnley away, and I think their long term fixtures from this point in time after they've played Chelsea and Leicester is a little bit better than Ramsdale. So I could potentially just put Raya in there just if I have nothing else to change in the team and I've got the 2 free transfers. Obviously I don't want to burn one, so I could make that goalkeeper switch potentially, and then again they'll only be using the 1 transfer, and so rolling that into next game week in game week 11 we would still have the 2 free transfers. Now game week 11 is where things get interesting because I had Antonio and I had Adam Armstrong and I had the 2 free transfers. Obviously I realized you can just see my transfer plan just over there in that part of the screen, but you can see what I did potentially do is that Antonio's got Liverpool at home that game week, which obviously is a very, very tough fixture, and I've actually swapped both Antonio and Armstrong to Tony and Hwang. So I've actually gone really, really cheap in the forwards, but that's because Tony has Norwich that game week and Hwang has got Crystal Palace away. And so that is potentially something that I could do in game week 11, that gives us a chance to see how Antonio is going in the 3 weeks after the wild card, and see how the European fixtures affect West Ham. And if he's not looking good at all, then I could potentially make the switch to jump on Tony for Norwich, and even Hwang, who obviously will have a few extra weeks of information and we can see if he's a good asset. And based on this, I had about 1.7 mil in the bank after those 2 free transfers. And so now jumping ahead to game week 12, obviously looking at the team, Rafinha has got Tottenham away. Even Livramento could be a better option to play as he's got Norwich away, so Livramento could come in for Rafinha. We would only have the 1 free transfer this game week. I could potentially roll it, but what I have actually thought about doing is that Lukaku's got Leicester and then he's got Manchester United. And so I have potentially thought about, because Salah has got Arsenal at home, and if you want to get in a good captaincy shout, Manchester United do play Watford in this game week. And so I think potentially moving Lukaku to either a Ronaldo or a Kane for a captaincy shout could be the way to go in game week 12. And obviously this gives us some time to see how Kane is performing, if Manchester United is looking good, although they've got some pretty tough fixtures. So I don't even mind doing a bit of a swap in the premiums from Lukaku to one of the other premium strikers. Could even potentially go for a Vardy, although he obviously has got Chelsea, so I probably wouldn't do that move. One of the reasons why I really liked doing that Kane move is that you can see there from game week 12, Spurs fixtures become really, really good. And so there could be a double up of having both Son and Kane in place there for Leeds at home, Burnley, Brentford, Norwich, a fantastic run of fixtures. And so that's probably like an interim plan that I've got for the next 4 game weeks for the team. This is the kind of thought that I've tried to put into the wildcard draft. So I guess one thing you might have noticed is that obviously I did potentially float the idea of doing a goalkeeper transfer, but there was no changes with my defenders. I tried to roll the transfer as much as possible, and most of my transfers were around my attackers and mainly the expensive ones at that. So that's kind of the reason why I do like this draft to an extent. What I will do just for reference as well is I'll do the same plan up until game week 12 for the Phil Foden draft, and you guys can let me know in the comments below which one of the 2 you do prefer. So this is the draft that I showed with Phil Foden in it, and obviously it's a very odd formation playing a 5-2-3 this game week, but if Rafinha isn't playing Obviously, I probably would play Livramento, and I probably would play Duffy instead of Mbeumo, just to avoid a Brentford double up against Chelsea, and obviously Duffy has got Norwich. It's a pretty good fixture for him, and obviously the bench is pretty strong with Mbeumo, Rafinha, and Brownhill. I probably won't flick through all the different screens, but as I mentioned, you can see over there, you can see what my potential transfers could be in the future for this particular draft as well. So game week 9, I probably would roll the transfer because Phil Foden does have Brighton at home. In game week 10, he again has got Crystal Palace at home, so it's a good fixture. So I think my transfer, again, it was a similar situation to the previous where I didn't really have that many issues in the team, so I could potentially do the Ramsdale to Reyes switch, or otherwise fix an issue that comes up in the next couple of weeks, because obviously something will usually always come up. And then the plan was, if I wanted to get in Heung-min Son in game week 11 when Phil Foden has got Manchester United away, again, similar with Antonio, we can potentially drop him down to a Hwang, who has got Crystal Palace away. And with those funds, we can then do Phil Foden to Heung-min Son. So I've worked it out. You can make it work in terms of the budget. So that's a good way to be able to get Son in place for that really good fixture run. So that's something that I could think about, because in this particular draft, I've got Foden for his good fixtures, and then I would be getting in Son for his good fixtures as well. And then in game week 12, again, I could do that similar switch of Lukaku to a Harry Kane. Down the line, obviously, I could even do something like a Tony to a Wilson. That's something I flirted with, but that's from game week 14, so things can get a little bit complicated by then, or there's too much uncertainty about future moves at that point in time. So this could be a very viable draft that I go with as well. I mean, the bench is a little bit stronger, that is for sure. A few more benching headaches with this one, but you could just keep Duffy and Livramento and Brownhill as your bench, and you'd be playing Mbeumo and Rafinha every week. So I don't hate this draft at all. It's got Tony, which I really like. It's basically just Son that I'm missing out in this draft, but I would be able to get him in around game week 11. So this would be a case of, if all things go to plan, I could be able to get Son in game week 11, but let me know in the comments below which of the two plans and which of the two drafts you do prefer, because I'm still very much up in the air about which one of the two I'm going to go for. So definitely follow me on Twitter, as I mentioned previously, to see what my final wildcard team is going to be like. I will admit I am probably leaning towards the Heung-min Son draft. So that's it, guys. That is my game week 8 team selection and wildcard draft video. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Definitely is going to be a bit of a longer video, but hopefully you found some insight in terms of me going through my future transfer plans. Again, if you liked the video, really appreciate a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments below which of the two drafts you do prefer, because I really would actually appreciate your input as well. And obviously any questions you have, leave in the comments below. We'll get back to everyone as I read every comment, but really appreciate all the support. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.